fairly novel in a conference, no less, and you're actually all going to get to participate, even more novel. And the whole point of this is we're going to poll, let me step back, we're going to poll you on a series of questions that relate to maritime security in the region. And the aim of this, obviously, is to capture what the aggregate mood in the audience is, given that we've got different people from all over the world and different types of agencies. And then also get a partial discussion going, time allowing, with the reasons behind why you think what you think about these particular questions. So for those of you who haven't seen this before, we use this at the Asia Pacific Center in all of our courses. It's a wonderful technique, particularly at the beginning of courses, to get people talking, but then get an aggregate read at the front end of a course as to what people are thinking, such that you can compare it on the back end of the course to see how views have changed. You can use it comparatively to cut across different courses. We have similar types of questions that'll do that. And I just heard Bonnie say they even use it at CSIS. Wonderful. Oh, we're even in the same category there. And frankly, universities all over North America and Europe are using this with great effect with students because it gives you a quantitative snapshot in some sense.
Does anyone not have a clicker, first of all?
So everybody should have a in front of them. Now let me say two things about the clicker. It is anonymous. We are not tracking you and we are not attempting to allocate your...
Trade if you want to. If you don't believe this,
that's a good point.
trade it with your...
You'd like to swap. Your fingerprints are erased from this and it's completely anonymous. So the aim again is just to get the aggregate output. So does everybody have one?
Anybody have more?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Does anybody have more than one? We're going to do this democratically as well. Okay, so this is a very straightforward exercise. When the polling questions come up, you're just going to point your poller directly at the screen and you're going to press the number according to the multiple choice question. Okay, you'll see a green light if you've been successful. You'll see a red light if you haven't. So if you do see a red light, let us know and we'll swap that out. And the other caveat is, if in the context of the 20 seconds or so I give you to do this, you change your mind, you just go with the final answer and the polling apparatus will swap the final answer out for you. Okay? So, we devised 6 questions. We've had some input from the emerging leaders. I'm not going to divulge which questions are theirs, but they did put some in to inform their own thinking about what you think as well. So, with that said, do we have any questions from the audience at this point?
It's all.
Yeah, you don't need to turn it on, you just need to think. Think and press. Very straightforward. Okay, any questions? Which order of press, think, press? I'd probably think it through, press. But again, you have the option to change it to a great thing. Okay, so we get the first question up. You'll notice our theme for the week. Bit of a no-brainer. Okay, so just press it at the screen, and you see the responses. There's a little under 100 of us. This is a very fast-voting group. Wow. For those of you who don't understand number 5, I would just say that you shouldn't vote for it then, based upon the audience. Okay, so you see how this is working. Blue Jays, Rangers, Red Sox, or hockey. So we can just aggregate the output. There we have it. Okay, so dominant Canadian audience, obviously. Yeah. Okay, and there's many others, and so we'll leave that as such. Okay, so now you see how we're going to do this. So if we can reset to the first content question. So the maritime security environment in the Indo-Asia Pacific region, IAPR, is getting better, getting worse, staying the same, not sure. Now, let me just preface this by saying we didn't put any time frame in here to bound it so intentionally. So I'll let you use your discretion. I wouldn't say you need to go back hundreds of years here, but in the remote time frame that you think this is a relevant type of question, use that as your gauge here. What do you think? Is it getting worse in the aggregate, better, or staying about the same? This is question 2. Yes. And then we're going to ask you, depending upon who voted what, to give a bit of reasoning to that. sir, that's one vote, one clicker. You're supposed to have one vote, two clickers. Yes, but there's nobody sitting there. Just so we're clear. Okay, you better take it away from her, Joe. Yeah. One vote, one person here. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look. Getting worse. Okay. So let's have somebody give their reasoning behind. Who said getting worse? Many of you said getting worse. Who would like to be so bold as to say why?
Sigurd Smith, Chief of Finance and Policy Division, Department in the Naval Staff of Norway. I wasn't sure, but I voted 2. And possibly it's a short answer why I put 2. I ended up putting 2. But I think there is economic growth. I think increased prosperity and knowledge and technological advances creates opportunities. Opportunities creates ambitions. And ambitions will overlap and create frictions and challenges. I think we especially see that in Eurasia and the region. I'm not pessimistic by nature, but that was what.
How about somebody else? Getting worse. Other reasons as to why we're getting worse? Alan? Sure.
Basically, I worry about nationalism as the opposite of what's victory. Sorry. I'm concerned that nationalism is on the increase, and that will mean the stability will be decreased.
How about getting better? Who said getting better? Who'd be so bold to? Yes, good for you. You said viciously.
Hi, Bruce Donaldson, former naval officer. I said it's getting better because if you look at what we've been discussing over the last 3 days, we have all, first of all, agreed on the basic context for the discussion. We've agreed on the players and the interests, all of whom have been represented in the discussion. And finally, the areas where we're most concerned are areas that we are measuring and areas where we can actually make judgments. Whereas I think in the past, the areas of our greatest concern were those that we knew little about, and so the potential for miscalculation was much higher. So I think the security situation is getting better.
Okay, we're going to move to the next question. We've got several here, some of which are lengthy, so if we can go to the next one. So what is the Indo-Asia Pacific region's top maritime security challenge in the next 5 years? Now, again, we're asking for the number one, so I'm asking you to really put your foot down here. I know there's many, but what's the number one as you look at it? Traditional military conflict, territorial maritime disputes, terrorism and violent extremism at sea or from the sea, piracy or armed robbery, more specifically, trafficking, people, weapons, and drugs, IUU fishing or unsafe behavior at sea, or is there another that you think is the most important here? So just press your number on the screen. Anybody getting a red? Everybody's got a green? Light. Lonnie, do you want to take a guess at what this is going to be? What do you think? Sure, let's not guess. Okay, we'll let the data show itself, okay? I feel badly putting you on the spot that way. Okay, let's see what everybody said here. Last chance? Aha, okay, so relative consensus here. Territorial maritime disputes, if you can't see, are 60%, everything else coming in under 10 with IUU. Great. Anybody like to explain their reasoning here, exactly why they said what they said? Or how about this? Who said something not territorial maritime dispute? Let's hear you defend that. Okay, sorry, brave soul here.
Possibly like many, number two is very attractive as the first thing to select. However, these things are all interrelated, and I think we had an excellent presentation on IUU earlier in the conference. It is over the next 5 years. There's a possibility that the territorial maritime disputes challenge will, with patience, eventually be solved, or there can be a balance reached, or it just reaches a sort of a level that it doesn't necessarily get worse and lead to anything. The competition for resources, however, particularly marine protein resources, that actually relates to the territorial maritime disputes, arguably, with EEZs and so on, and so it might actually be that which is the biggest challenge over the next 5 years that might lead to some real competition.
Other thoughts?
I actually put down number one. I think 2 through 7 are all very important sort of discrete issues. The consequence of any of those going bad, ultimately, the worst, you take it to the extreme, the consequence will be military conflict. We're not going to do military conflict for the sake of it, because something else on that list there has driven us to that point. That's what we need to avoid. So by going number one, which I did, that's not to say that the others aren't critically important, but they will be the drivers of the consequence, and the consequence is what we need to manage for. Yeah, that's where we've got to, that's our biggest challenge, I think.
Right, very interesting logic. So that's where we might end up here. Any other thoughts? Who said other? So, Alan again. Oh, somebody else said other too. So what do you think?
Well, in my view, since everybody is very much aware of the dangers of both military conflict and of the territorial maritime dispute, and precisely as we've learned when we heard our Japanese colleague, that actually there was a lack of dialogue in the past, but nowadays, thanks to a number of institutions, there is indeed the opportunities to express ideas and exchange and interact. I think that other issues like trafficking people, weapons, and narcotic drugs, I think that's it should be a major concern in the area because of poor governance, because of a number of flows that we don't know about, and they might have an effect.
So maybe governance in some broader sense too. I'm just going to let Alan weigh in.
I looked for mass migration, big people movements. Didn't see it, thought it might be under 8, and if not, then 8 is all of the above.
You don't get to do that, Alan. I'm joking. You need to put down. So mass migration, though, would be a category. Okay.
Sigurd Smith, Naval South Norway again. Where is environmental impacts and sustainable growth? Where does that fit in? I didn't expect to cover that. That creates certainly a lot of friction, I think. Well, I voted number 8, so I wanted the 5% community.
So they persuaded you to change your answer?
Just one thing I might add is a number, if you make 9 other and number 8 there, one thing we haven't discussed here, which I think actually is a big risk, is miscommunication. You often see that with ships and things getting out of hand. I think there's a far greater risk of that happening actually in the air than on the surface of the ocean, with ships. Primarily because things happen so much quicker. You've got a pilot who's worrying about fuel, how to get home, fly his aeroplane, and deal with a very quickly emergent situation with a huge number of, an increasing number of air forces of different persuasions, military and civil, all operating in the close confined area there. So that's one point I guess we haven't discussed. And Alexander's, when he started talking, just put it into the one thing we haven't discussed in this whole conference, but actually maritime surveillance operations, for want of a better term, with the aircraft, I think actually has probably the greatest potential for a miscommunication to get out of hand quickly.
I can't help it. The mind is just recycling My views is, I tend to agree with the gentleman just now that initially I wanted to put number 2. But I believe that if you are more aware of the problem, then the problem will be much under control. But at the moment now, in the region where say, the eastern coast of Sabah, the greatest challenge for us, Malaysian, and also maybe the Philippines, is about terrorism and violent extremism. That's where I was contemplating between 3 and 4. The reason for this is I tend to relate the next 5 years is going to be a very economic kind of a problem in the issues. If there is an economic problem, then you will see an increase in piracy, armed robberies, because after all, the pirates all come from land. And terrorism is another issue. I think the world politics has an impact on this. For example, what's happening in Syria, in Iraq. So they are extremism, and they want to be heard, and they want to be recognized. And this is where I feel that in the next 5 years, I was contemplating between 3 and 4, but I voted for 3. I believe that territorial maritime dispute is under control. We discussed a lot about it, but I am quite certain that people are more aware of the danger of getting involved into an open conflict. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so let's go to our next question. Whether okay, so another lengthy one. So what security challenge discussed here at MSC16 is your most significant concern? So your being you and your country. And again, you've got to choose one. Climate change, the nuclear threat, the DPRK, rules-based order, the use of the maritime militia, arms racing, interagency challenges to comprehensive strategy, the South China Sea, IUU, and the being left behind by technological advances, or is it something else we haven't thought of? And 8 should also include food security. Okay, so in other words, where are you going to focus your policy coordination, which area? Okay, go ahead. Okay, so it's all over the board. The 7th is the South China Sea at 21%. Climate change is the first at 18. The rules-based order, 14. Nuclear threat, and the interagency challenges. Okay, so who would like to make a case for the South China Sea being the number one for your? Who would be so bold to identify why that is the case for your country being an illustrative example as to why? Alternatively, let's go to other. There's a lot of you who thought other. So where are your countries? This would be interesting to hear in the aggregate. Who put other?
So you asked for my most significant concern. Most significant concern is overpopulation, because within the next decades, overpopulation will be the overwhelming problem, and we have no solution for that. That is then radiating on all the other problems we have. All the other problems become small if we have billions and billions of people more becoming to move. And I'm living in Europe. We have some problems with migration now, and I foresee within the next 10 or 20 years the problem becoming more and more due to that migration and overpopulation.
What about other? Who else had other? There are many others here. But I'm just meeting you at lunch, right? So you better cough it up.
Andrew Forbes, Australian troublemaker. Security of submarine cables. That's one thing we don't talk about in maritime security. That's actually a major vulnerability because anybody can take them out at any time.
And that's distinct to Australia, you're saying, or are you saying it has broader reach than that? Global? Okay. But it's
Justin,
distinct for
could
Australia.
you repeat what he said in the front? We can really
Okay,
hear.
Andrew, okay, that's what you said. Slow down.
The security of submarine cables. I mean, everybody relies on satellites. I think the internet is on satellites. It's not submarine cables. All financial transactions, submarine cables. And anybody can take them out at any time. It's really that simple.
Great. Other thoughts? Are there others?
Justin?
Derek Davis, I'm a naval person. Similar to the first other, but perhaps from a different perspective. The migration of people around the world, I think, is going to be something that is affected by, shall we say, one. It is leading to the concerns about 3 and 4. It is leading to 6, and probably leading to 7, and number 8 is possibly going to lead to it. And number 9 is also a major thing. I agree with the first person that it may not necessarily be huge overpopulation, because looking at demographics, our friend from China is seeing his demographics say over the next few years, next decade is going to actually be on a downward trajectory. That itself may lead to tensions within a very large country. India is rising demographically. That leads to its own problems. Within the region, I do not know about the smaller countries, but I believe when you have a population that changes very quickly, it leads to tensions within that area. If, as we've talked about for the last several days, about countries trying to engage with one another, if they are at different stages of population growth and diminishment, that can lead to different expectations and different worries. Hence why I went with other.
So there's a core here. In other words, everything is actually connected to the core concern. Okay? Other thoughts? You said climate change. There's a lot of people said climate change. You said climate.
Yeah, Lieutenant Commander Arthur at Camp Feedback.
If you could hold the microphone a little closer, please.
Is that better?
That's good.
So Lieutenant Commander Arthur at Camp Feedback. I think I'm not alone in having pushed climate change, but I guess I'm the only one who wants to talk about it. I think that in reality, our view of the world, our strategy, our procurement has been based on a world that looks somewhat similar to the one that we sit in today. But in recent years, we've seen the unpredictability of the changing climate as it spools and ramps up and becomes exponential. I also, looking at the list, see that effects of climate change put a squeeze on the majority of our other concerns. So by itself, frankly, is something that we're not in these organizations primarily necessarily going to be concerned with, but the backbone of this conference that strikes me is that we're trying to strategize for a world that's going to change rapidly, and our concerns will amplify as we're all strained by the potential changes, and we don't know how. And so, in my mind, while we aren't necessarily going to focus what we're doing here on that, it has to be a major concern because it affects all aspects of our operations and not in a positive way. So I think that, yes, it's affected our policy locally. Certainly the changes in the Arctic are significant for us. We also have seen vast increases in the number of forest fires, and our armed forces as well as civilian agencies are involved in fighting the effects of climate change, but also in effects of, I think it's works more broadly as well.
Thank you. I mark 10 other, because I don't think the disputes with the South China Sea will be the most significant concern. No one country wants to reach a war. Although we have sharp differences on the sovereignty issues and maritime delimitation, I think we can talk, negotiate. Unless China is attacked, China will not launch attack against others. So I think the most significant concern for China is development. We have a 1.3 billion population. So the greatest burden for the country is to raise the living standards of the people and also increase the wages of the military, including mine. I said, why my son doesn't like to join the Navy. Now he's in the civilian sector. He earns as much, almost as me. He said if he joins the Navy, he will not earn too much. So also, I think there are many people living in the countryside in China. Our friends, when you travel to the large cities of China, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, you can see there are many new buildings or life actually has been elevated. But many people are living in a very low standard of the countryside. I think this is the biggest task for the country, and also we support our country to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to our next question.
And just for the record, that was one of the questions the future leaders asked for us to include. The one we just did. So you can thank them for forcing you to think about tough questions.
Okay, last big substantive question. Best way to improve maritime security in the Indo-Asia Pacific region is through or via international law and regime, great power leadership, shared values, bilateral and multilateral alliances, regional organizations, global organizations, or other. Now, I realize that many would be popular as answers, but you have to put your money into one. Which basket do you choose? This is a very good group. You know, there's actually a lot of others in here, so just to show that there's actually been a lot of creative thinking. Okay, let's go ahead. So pretty next. Okay, so
Yes.
a lot of defenders of the law. John's excited. Good. Okay, almost a quarter. That's the best way. Okay, bilateral, multilateral alliances coming in second, and then shared values, and then descending into great power leadership. So let's just hear a defense perhaps of the first. You said law and regimes. Why is this the most central here? Why is the law? Why do we believe so heavily that the law can do this? Particularly for the non-lawyer. Do you want to justify? Oh, you're not. Right. Do you want to go ahead?
From my point of view, the United Nations Convention Law of the Sea has risen an international law to cooperate and also to use access sea line of communication, sea line of trade to all of the nations have a sea. And the regime has accommodated majority of people who have access to the sea.
Other thoughts?
Thank you very much. To my friend Nan, I have chosen 4 because I believe in marriage and commitment. Thank you very much.
Develop the new lexicon. Who had their hands? Yeah.
Thorsten Bochny, Atlas Electronic. There's a belief among some that might makes right, and the only answer to might makes right is following Ben Franklin's quote and hang together, or you will all hang separately. So I think bilateral and multilateral alliances are preconditioning to ensuring respect for international law and regimes. In the end, yes, that's a mechanism through which we improve maritime security, but the precondition is a respect for that, and that can only be achieved by counteracting might makes right.
Very thorough. Okay, so there's a series of steps. Adam, please.
Yeah, hi again, everyone. I make a point at the end of this, so that's why I stepped up here for everyone to see. First off, I think the reason that law is up here, just a proposal, is that we feared there would be years of litigation if law didn't get out. That being said, I selected number 7, and I just want to tie it back to the other question. Jim and I were having a discussion here in the front row, and in the questions that came out in the previous, or the discussion that came out in the previous question, we talked about wealth distribution through our colleague from China. We talked about climate change, thanks to Matt Arthur for raising that. And I was surprised amongst the other big issues that we're struggling with, challenged by and actively working on in Canada, is gender equality. And so here in this forum, I thought when we looked at the issues, when I looked at this, I voted for other, and I thought maybe gender equality, because when we look around this forum at the greatest challenge that perhaps we're going to face as we tackle all of the other issues is how do we take the other significant component of that husband and wife team and incorporate them into a group that looks pretty uniform, whether they're wearing uniform or non-uniform, and whether or not they are diverse in so many other ways. I think it's a significant challenge for us to keep in mind as we move forward.
Super, thank you.
So if you answered 7, that was the correct answer. Is that what you said?
Very, very quickly, sir, then I got to move on. Go ahead, please. It's very quickly. Right here, John.
I think what is good for Europe should be good for the IDP region as well. So we are talking about Europe mainly how to handle, how to manage the relation with Russia. I think it's absolutely important to talk to each other for number 4. And the second step is then to build an alliance. People talking to each other, or parties talking to each other, or building an alliance, they don't wage war against each other.
Great point. Last question we've got, Sam, I'm sorry, our last practical question here. We've got to engage it here. Okay, so this is the to-do list, and it reads as follows. After participating in MSC16 discussions, I will, you're on the hook too, first, contact leaders of my other organizations in my government, discuss new ideas with my foreign counterparts, recommend strategy or policy changes to higher headquarters, task my staff or subordinate organizations to explore changes and ongoing efforts, educate myself more about a specific topic presented at MSC16. So you get a free ride here, apparently, this conference. So what will you do with what you've heard, what you've developed in terms of relationships? How has this helped? Okay. Okay, good. the realm of education, educate myself about specific topics. 40% of you have said that. I'm surprised at number 4. Nobody's tasking their staff. Very few of you. A great option. We gave you an option to task your staff to do things. Yes, that was optional here. But you can see, we've always intended this conference, obviously, to bring about greater awareness, greater ideas. Selecting the topics is important. It's difficult. There's obviously others that you can choose from, but we do hope that it's been practical in many ways that you can actually use what has been developed here over the last few days. So,
And this was the other question introduced by the future leaders. So I would say after you have tasked them so often, they get an opportunity to see what you would do with